all the way in. That arm can relax, completely relax. That arm can relax, completely relax. You are drifting to sleep. Deeper sleep, deeper sleep. In a moment, I'm going to hand you the world's biggest, strongest spliff. It's full of the world's strongest marijuana. It's the most strongest joint. Open your eyes. Have a look at this. Look, no one about. Have a go on that, mate. It's burning already. Have a go on that. That's right. Get a bit of a hit off that. Have some more. Go for it, mate. It's no one about. Right down to your toes this time. That's right. Sleep and stand, sleep and stand. The next time I click my fingers, you'll realise the drug squad are about to raid this stall. All those cucumbers are incredibly strong spliffs. The drug squad are coming. Phil, quick. You got a carrier? They're coming, mate. Phil.
In. All of them.
I can't take them all. I can't take all of them. I can't take all of them.
What's about? You're dropping them. What are you doing?
Get in there. If they find one, you're done.
You take them with you, yeah?
Hurry up.
Put them all in.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I'll hold it open. Get them in there, get them in there, get them in there. Quick, quick, quick.
Quick.
Those last couple. Stash the rest. Stash the rest. They're coming. Stash them. Stash the rest. It's too much now. I can't even get away with it. Look at that. Hard drugs. I'm going to be working completely alone. All I will have are the clothes I'm standing up in. I need things to survive. If I can't get hold of them, I'm going to have to go without. It's getting a bit chilly, so it'd be nice to take someone's coat. Look at that. This one. Look at it. Stare at it. You don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything. Relax your arms, relax your hands. You will realise that you're wearing my coat. You're wearing my coat. I'll hold the pole if you like. Allow you to take it off. Yeah, can I just take it? Did you get to eat? It's this way. You don't want to stand that way around the wrong way, do you? That'd be terrible. Okay, it's fantastic. It's quite a warm evening. If you just take it, where is the Pizza Hut? I'm going to go and get you a fresh one. Okay, you stay on that spot. I'm going to get myself a new suit. I'm going to walk onto Regent Street. I'm going to go into Hackett, get in there. I'm going to let the staff member know that I need to leave with a suit today. I'm going to hypnotise them and I'm going to walk out with that suit. Simple as that.
36. Is it 36? 36 regular. You want to try and slip the jacket and see how you feel to size?
Yes. You've been hypnotised before?
Oh, I haven't, no.
No?
I don't think it might either.
What's that?
I've never tried it, so you don't know. It may do.
Give it a go, shall we?
We can give it a go, yeah.
First of all, test the concentration. Just put your hands out in front of you. Clasp them tight.
Yep.
Tight together so your knuckles are kind of interlocked. Bend your elbows. They're making a sort of desperate prayer. Keep your palms tight together and put your first fingers up about an inch apart.
Like
that. A little bit further apart. Now look at the space between your fingers, Dan. Keep looking at them. They're going to come together and touch all by themselves. Keep staring at them. They're magnets in the tips of your fingers. They're starting to twitch. That's right. They're starting to go. They're going to touch. Now as soon as those fingers touch, Dan, keep looking at them. As soon as those fingers touch, you can just allow your eyes to close. Close your eyes. That's right. Just sleep. Just sleep. Just relax. Just relax. Like all those other times and places, you simply drifted down and relax. Deeper, deeper, deeper down. You're drifting all the way down into a wonderful place. You can take all the time needed then. You've got a super powerful mind.
Yeah, we've got, I've got a group of people. There's about,
Yeah. Come round, I was in a deep sleep then. Where's he gone? I don't know. Well, he was here and he's disappeared. I'm not sure.
I'm going to need to eat. I'm going to need to keep warm. And for 30 nights, I'm going to need to find a roof to go over my head. Have you ever been hypnotised? I don't want to be hypnotised. Really? What about you? You got something to try? Yeah? What we're here to do is put your hands out in front of you. I want you to look at the gap between your fingers, not my fingers, just concentrate on those fingertips, because in a moment, they're going to come together and touch all by themselves, like you've got two powerful magnets in the tips of those fingers pulling them together. I'm going to push your hands down. As I push your hands down, you can just relax even more, just as if you were drifting off to sleep. You're doing brilliant. Just sitting back in the chair with your eyes closed. Next time, I'll ask you to open your eyes, a smile on your face. I'd like you to get up, walk over to the bed. Ask me my room key. The number on my room key is number 35. Nod your head if you understand. Open your eyes, Hannah. Okay, good. Excellent. You did brilliant. Thanks very much. I'm in. Fantastic. That's harder work than I expected. But job done.
Alrighty, that was pretty crack up, eh? Who's going to go and do that? So he will be with us in a second. I don't know if you heard my conversation in the background.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Anthony Jacquin. When I first started studying hypnosis over 20 years ago, it was very much...
Yeah, that wasn't really him. Hi, I'm Anthony Jacquin. Here he goes.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We've just been watching your video of the cucumbers.
Yeah, no video at the moment, but just the moment I can pull over, I will, as long as you can all hear me clearly.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Right, guys, apologies for my lateness, but I'm here now.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Hey, so, yeah.
So you've been checking out some of the old head hacking videos?
Yeah, I remember watching it years ago, and so I thought I'd chuck it on for a bit of a laugh. It is very funny.
Yeah, that was a good time, and it completely transformed my approach to hypnosis. You know, doing the very first effort at doing street hypnosis was the Hypno Survival video. I don't know if you've seen that, where I go into a bar and, you know, get free drinks. And
yeah, that was the one we were watching.
Yeah, well, that was basically the first time I'd ever done that. Wow. So I just kind of got lucky and everything seemed to work. But when I went into that process, I was kind of thinking that I'd really have to, you know, get to know the person a little bit and maybe do some, you know, tricks and bar tricks and things like that. I do some magic as well. But when it came to it, it's exactly as you see it. It's kind of, I walk up and, you know, just do magnetic fingers and magnetic hands and do an induction and then begin. So I learned a lot doing that. And I think it's relevant for us as therapists.
Yeah. And did your book come before that one, or after the Reality is Plastic book?
Yeah, so basically after Hypno Survival, there was a little kind of crew of us that continued to do this sort of impromptu hypnosis. And then a year or so later, I wrote Reality is Plastic. Many of the routines in there are kind of descriptions of what happened in that first encounter. And then we formed a company called Head Hacking. And we started off really just teaching magicians and mystery kind of performers, mentalists, things like that, how to do hypnosis, because they didn't necessarily want to do stage hypnosis or therapy, but they, did want to be able to integrate it into their act and that kind of thing. So it started, we ran courses just for magicians for maybe a year, and it kind of took off. We started traveling all around Europe and really teaching some of the, best magicians in each country how to do impromptu hypnosis. And then we got more and more requests from therapists and just regular people who wanted to satisfy their curiosity. So we then started to, we had the Trilby connection, which is similar kind of training, but without the magic secrets. And that went completely crazy. And then, we started teaching all around the world. And we never made it to New Zealand, but we got to Australia a couple of times. So it was a good time. Good time.
Awesome. So when you say were you working with someone?
Yeah, basically Head Hacking involved myself, and I had a business partner called Kev Sheldrake. We're not in business together anymore, but we were for 7 or 8 years. And a couple of the people we trained became, like our co-trainers. So it just made it easier, because we ended up, running courses in the US, and there were 80 to 100 people on the course, and we'd take them all out on the street, like in Vegas and San Diego and stuff, to practice. So Head Hacking had a business partner, but it was essentially a little collective of, performers who formed our team. So it's a good time.
Yeah. So we want to know your dad. What got you into hypnosis? Just gonna ask.
Well, back in the mid-90s, my dad, Anthony Jacquin, who I'm sure some of you have come across, he's always run his own business. He's kind of a sales, guy, has always kind of been in that business, but also was always interested in personal development and reading those kind of books. When I was about, 14 or something, he handed me and my brother a copy of Anthony Robbins' Unlimited Power, and was like, you have to read this book. That book introduced him to NLP, because that book is kind of like the NLP process and tool set and mindset. And that introduced him to hypnosis. He then did a course. So this was probably about 1994 or 95. And was so hooked on it straight away that he immediately just kind of said, you need to do this. In fact, he wrote me a letter. I was living in Paris at the time, and he wrote me this letter saying, I've learned hypnosis. I've started doing some sessions, and, I feel like I'm wearing this invisible cloak, like a magic cloak or something. And you need to get one. So when I came back, he just basically handed me all of the materials he had, which is kind of miles away from what we do now, but he handed me, sheets of paper, scripts, inductions, And I got started, I was at university, and I got lucky in that my first few sessions were successful. You know, the people they're all therapy sessions really, but I tried to help a couple of people quit smoking, and they quit smoking. And then the real turning point was I met a guy in, you know, like the university bar, told me he was a singer, a vocalist, and that he had some time in a studio, which was rare for him. He couldn't really afford time in a studio, but he was trying to get like his reel recorded, and he just wanted to kind of unleash in the recording booth. And again, I didn't really know what I was doing, but lay him down on a sofa, you know, read some stuff to him, essentially that he would be able to do that. And believe it or not, he got signed by a producer who was just walking past and heard him singing. So that was it. There was kind of no turning back after that. I was completely hooked, even though I didn't really know that much about what I was doing. I knew I was doing something and that you could get these seemingly magical results. So I never really put it down after that, but I continued, you know, at university, and eventually, you know, jobs related to university. And I went full time. Eventually I was working for a .com company in sales. And when that all kind of collapsed, I was made redundant, and I had about 6 weeks to make something happen. This was 2001. My dad by then was, you know, deeply into it full time and teaching people as well. And he had a kind of business model that really attracted smokers. He had months and months of his diary filled with this kind of guarantee model. Again, I don't work like this anymore. So I placed an ad in a local newspaper. I got 8 clients. I then got another 6. And that was it. I haven't really done a real job since. It didn't stop. It didn't even slow down for like 3,500 clients, mostly smokers, but obviously they send you other people. So that was 2001. Been doing this full time ever since. And obviously my dad and I now collaborate on teaching people our system of hypnotherapy. But, you know, I often find myself warning people who are just getting into it. Like, if you get into this, it kind of, that's it. It won't let you go, you know. Whatever else you're into or interested in, suddenly this needs to be part of that. If you're into sport, performance, it's going to have to be part of that. If you're into sales or communication or teaching, you'll see everything through this lens. And if you're into helping people, then, you know, whatever your modality, whether it's a physical therapy or a talking therapy, or even if you were dishing out medicine, then once you understand that, you know, suggestion rather than like full-on hypnosis, just the fact that everything you say and do is a suggestion, it has to be part of that. So, you know, I'm still as obsessed as I was back then.
Yeah. And it totally is like that. Like going
Yeah.
out, oh, once you jump, there's no stopping, and it's going, and the learning keeps on going, and knowledge and the clients. It's amazing. It's the coolest job ever, eh?
It is. And the other thing is, the more you do of it, I think most of us go through a phase. It's the same kind of journey as a magician goes through, actually, which is at the beginning, you go through this phase of trying to kind of gather everything and learn everything, and different inductions and more techniques, and magicians do it. They have to kind of know how every trick works and buy everything, and they end up with a drawer full of stuff that they never really use. And there's a saying in magic, you may have heard me say this, but I often share this with hypnotherapists, which is that a professional magician does 6 tricks thousands of times, and an amateur magician kind of has 1,000 tricks and they do them a few times. And it's a bit like that with hypnosis. I know, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm always reading and always learning. I love seeing how other people work, but when it comes down to doing the work, it's like you are going to be so much better off if you focus in on like a handful of techniques. Even your approach to therapy, if you really test out those techniques in, you know, many times, hundreds of times before you really draw a conclusion about them, you're going to find that a handful of techniques are most of what you need, like most of the time. And, you know, for my dad and I, if we're working with people in person, it's pretty much the same induction every time. It doesn't really matter. Inductions don't make a massive difference to how responsive people are. It's just, you know, do something that you can do confidently that's appropriate for the way you work. And the same with the techniques. You know, we use parts work and obviously the arrow and some metaphor and direct suggestion, but it's kind of limited. It's like, you know, we're not trying to fill our heads with 50 things when like 5 or 6 are most of what you need most of the time. So I really encourage people to take the analogy a bit further. It's like, if you want to be a professional magician, then these 6 tricks, if you go and do them to, you know, 200 groups of people, will teach you everything you need to know about how to approach people and how to communicate and how to deal with slightly difficult people and how to deal with things when it doesn't go as you want and when it's like really good fortune. And it's the same with therapy techniques. If you master a handful of techniques, they are going to teach you everything you need about the therapeutic alliance and how to communicate and how to pace and lead. It's going to give you the flexibility that you need. So that is my general advice for people kicking off with this. But yeah, it's the best job ever.
Yeah. People always ask me what I do with my clients, because generally the technique is the same thing. It's always different for the client and it feels different and stuff, but yeah, you definitely do stick to the things that
exactly, because the experience is always personal to them. Yeah. And, you know, hypnosis is collaborative. Despite appearances, hypnosis is a collaborative act of the imagination. And we kind of play in this little space. I sometimes call it's like a third mind between our minds. That is where we play. And, you know, there is a kind of snootiness in the industry about any thought of something being scripted. I'm not quite saying just read a script, but what I'm saying is, you know, the techniques are something of a script. They provide you with a framework at least, and there's enough space within that framework for the client to have a completely individual and personal experience. So, you know, even Erickson didn't need to, you know, constantly make up new metaphors unique for every client. It's more a case of, you know, just, it's like storytelling, you know, or
tailoring it.
Art, you know, it's like you don't all need your own painting or poem, it's like just give the client a little bit of space. That I think the important thing, actually, which I kind of overlooked at the beginning, is to recognize this is not a passive experience for the person that you're working with, and we will get better results if we give them appropriate instructions and clarify that their role is an active, collaborative role, and they're going to be asked to use their imagination, and kind of coach them a little in how to do that. Because, you know, there's even research showing that if you don't do that, 50% of people believe their role in any kind of hypnotic encounter, whether it's performance or otherwise, is to just sit and wait, to be completely passive and just wait for things to happen. So if we give people instructions and let them know, in fact, this is what we keep calling a good subject does. They recognize, for whatever reason, that their role is active, collaborative, and they use their imagination appropriately. So if we instruct people in that and we clarify their role, that's kind of the best way I can put it, then you will get better results, because you're going to have more people actively, taking part, and that works very well.
Yeah.
Right, I've now managed to pull over, although I've managed to do that in a lorry park, so I may be asked to move. So let me see if I can switch on my video. How are we doing? This may or may not work. Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Good. Some others might turn their videos now on as well.
Okay, well, I am now here. Again, apologies for... I got on the road this morning at 5:30 a.m. on this mission. I need to go to London and see someone about something important. And yeah, sorry, it's completely slipped my mind. Didn't look at my reminders as I normally would when I get up.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know whether to ring you because I knew it was quite early.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm an early riser. I'm always up at like around 5:30, something like that. So mornings are good. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if you have some questions accruing. I can't see the chat window. So if any questions pop up, there is, maybe I can see the chat. Looks like I can. But if anyone has any questions, about any aspect of hypnosis, business-wise or therapy-wise, then let me know. My main job, despite the head hacking videos, my main job is hypnotherapy, and obviously teaching people to do hypnotherapy. So I'm happy to talk through anything, any techniques. Just let me know.
Morning, Anthony. Just wondering how the COVID crisis has affected your business over there. Whether people are, coming up with more anxiety, more fear. What are you noticing in the current climate over there? I know it's a current.
Well, fortunately for me, I do most of my therapy online anyway. I'm still seeing a few people face to face, so you need to adjust for that. I can't say I've noticed any major differences COVID related in terms of why people are coming. I've seen a general shift toward anxiety related issues over the last, I don't know, I'd say 5 years, but it's probably been a bit longer than that. Anyway, I have I haven't seen any difference. I have seen 2 clients in the last couple of months who have recognized that they have a drinking problem. Now, they probably had a drinking problem before COVID, but now they are trapped in the house with their partner. It's become more apparent that they need to do something about that. So I do think, you know, that's one thing that's going to be an issue. I mean, so many, I won't say of us, but, you know, I think many people on the call are probably drinking a little bit more than they did before because they're stuck at home and it's easier to have that glass of wine or whatever. So I'm guessing, yeah, for people who are already kind of on the edge of having, you know, more of a habit, a dependency, I guess that will tip them over the edge. I do think there's going to be a whip in the tail of this thing, in that, of course, people are not getting many of their basic needs met socially. They don't have a sense of control about work or their finances. They're no longer feeling part of something bigger than themselves in terms of a team or a mission at work. And when our basic needs aren't met, we're going to suffer. We're going to experience some anxiety. I'm a big advocate of what's called human givens. They're like teachers of psychotherapy and things in the UK, and they made a kind of distinction between what's sometimes called Maslow's basic needs, the kind of pyramid of needs, you know, food, water, shelter, social needs, right up to kind of self-actualization, which would be nice for people. But the distinction they made was that, you know, beyond kind of food and water, all of our basic needs must be met if we are to thrive. We can't allow any of them to be ignored. Just like a plant, you know, you can give it, you know, space and food and light, but it needs water. Or you can give it water and light and food, but it needs space. All of our basic needs must be met, even though some of them sound like kind of nice to have things, you know, like purpose and being part of something bigger than ourselves and having at least one intimate connection, relationship, you know, all these kind of things. So a lot of that, you know, is inevitably going to, depending on how people react to it. I mean, for me, this has been a good time for me and my family. It's been a good time, bizarrely, for my business. I'm not resisting the current situation. I'm not kind of waiting for it to change anytime soon. I think, you know, we're in this for the longish haul, at least until, you know, next end of summer, kind of next year at the earliest. I mean, so yeah, there you go.
No, thank you. No, I guess it was while you're in the thick of it over there, so just wondering whether there are any trends and whatnot can be becoming more relevant, I suppose, in this time. I suppose I'm seeing with lots of clients and whatnot, there's a lot more soul searching going on, and maybe it's related to the human givens. They're starting to look at those things that are missing in their lives and hence going a little bit deeper. So yeah, no, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Certainly, you know, there is an abundance of work out there if we can manage to communicate with the people who need our services.
Yeah.
And you know, I've got a couple of big influences business wise, and one of those has a saying which completely just hit me at the right time at the beginning of this experience, which was, he talks about people's before state and after state, like with our services somewhere in between, and says, what are you doing to get people to their after state, whether they buy your products and services or not?
Yeah.
Right. And in terms of what we can be doing, you know, when we don't have a client, in terms of our social media and all of this kind of stuff, it's like everything should be geared to that. Everything we share should be educational or transformational rather than transactional. And if you do that, if you give during this time, then there is a payoff eventually, you know. So that has been my kind of strategy. I started a Facebook group at the beginning of this, just geared toward, you know, the only rule here is you have to go public with 3 things that you want to achieve in the next 3 months. And it completely like caught fire because, you know, people want to do stuff and they want to achieve stuff. So I think that should really be one of our aims if we're in this business.
Nice, nice.
Anyway, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys?
I've got a question for you. Hi, Anthony. Thanks for your time.
Hello there.
I've got a question. So when you're doing your online session mainly now, what sort of inductions, or what's your favorite induction now doing it online where, you know, you don't have them with you, you know, sort of face to face?
Yeah, well, kind of 2 things to say about that. So when I'm working in person, my dad and I have always used this thing. We call it a Jacquin power lift because my dad kind of created it, but it ends up it involves lifting the person's arm up. They close their eyes. You put their arm down, their eyes open. You lift it up, their eyes close. You push it down, their eyes open. And then the 3rd time, we just kind of leave their arm in this position, which you may recognize because our friend Bob Burns has created this wonderful thing called the Swan.
Yeah, I've got his CBT.
Right. So basically for 20 years, my dad and I have been setting that up and then creating an idiomotor signal, because our next step is essentially some kind of parts work where we're going to speak to a part that runs a smoking habit or runs a protective mechanism via this signal. All right. So that is the kind of place I'm most familiar, the shape I'm most familiar with working from. However, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've completely fallen in love with the Swan. So I often use the Swan in my kind of discussion. I'll just say, hey, let's just try something, you know, just pop your hand up like this. And the first step, the way I phrase it, is if your mind is willing to look at this, that hand will move. I know it sounds strange, but it will move. Your finger may twitch, your hand may turn, whatever. Right? So I'm very comfortable using the Swan sort of not as an induction. So now that I'm working online, that is really the easiest way for me into it. There's kind of 2 variations on it. So sometimes after I call it like the transition between this kind of discussion and, you know, the hypnosis part of the session, if you want to put it that way. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just say, okay, let's just kind of warm up with a couple of almost like playground exercises. I'm going to ask you to use your imagination. I will do a couple of things like magnetic fingers and magnetic hands, which gets people experiencing idiomotor movement, right? But it's fun, it's kind of playful. They are going to have success with that. Then I will go into the first phase of the Swan. I say, you left-handed or right-handed? Good. Okay, put your left hand up on the chair for me. Turn and look at your hand. Like, do not look at me. Look at your hand. Look at the lines on it. You know, look at the lines between these lines. Almost like you've never looked at it before. If your unconscious is willing to look at this anxiety, that hand will move. It may be a finger twitches, muscle twitches. It may turn at the wrist. It will move. You may even feel it like a build up in energy. If you notice that, nod your head, right? So that is sort of a mashup of the first phase of the Swan and some of the language from mirroring hands. I'm also a big fan of Ernest Rossi and Richard Hill's work because I've always used idiomotor movement. So I love the way they've kind of clarified this curiosity kind of frame as being one of the key ingredients in getting this going. So that's why I spend a bit of time there. Look at your hand, almost like you've never looked at it before, like you were going to try and remember what it would look like if you were to draw it, right? Where does the light fall? Where does the shadow fall? I'm basically just getting you to hang out in this position for a while, and then asking for that signal. And again, more often than not, we'll get a signal, and even if we don't get a movement, I'll get a head nod because they're feeling something. So that, you know, I think the swan is the perfect bridge. I don't personally, hypnosis for me is best defined as automatically responding to a suggestion, right? I don't see hypnosis as being best defined as a trance or a relaxed state or even a hip or any kind of state. In fact, the state is a suggested effect. It's not the defining characteristic of hypnosis. So I will certainly suggest states, and sometimes I'll suggest trance-like states and deeply relaxed states. But hypnosis for me isn't about going into a state. Hypnosis is about responding automatically. So if someone is responding with ideomotor movement, as far as I'm concerned, it's already game on. It's already happening. This is it. This is what we're asking the person to do. So that's how I work most of the time. A couple of, you know, what I call set piece exercises, but like suggestibility exercises, and the beginning of the swan. I then typically go into what we call a parts negotiation, but you know, it's like it's rather than just saying, is your mind willing to look at it? Does it know what to do about it? What I do is closer to what some of you will call a 6-step reframe, which was an early NLP technique. I'd like to speak to that part. I'd like to ask that part to let you know what it's been trying to do. I'd like you to, that part to find other ways of doing that have nothing to do with smoking. I'd like that part to pick the best choice. I'd like that part to take that choice, and so forth and so on. That's essentially the core technique. An alternative to that, induction-wise, but it gets us to the same place, is, and this is really the last few months I've been doing this, you'll notice lots of people are talking about box breathing. So it's like a basic breathing technique. So in for 3, hold for 3, out for 3, hold for 3. So it's kind of like this, you know, imagine a kind of square, where it's called box breathing. So that actually kind of works quite well with instructions to lift your arm. So I say, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you to take a nice slow inhalation. And as you inhale, to just let your arm lift up to about here. And as you do, allow your eyes to close. I will then ask you to put your arm down as you exhale and open your eyes. So you're going to inhale, your arm will lift up, close your eyes. You'll exhale, arm goes down, open your eyes. That's all we're going to do. Is that okay with you? Right? So that is very, very close to the power lift anyway, the instructions in the power lift. So, which I will happily send all of you. Any of you are still on this call, I will send a copy of my book, Reality is Plastic, to it's Justine, isn't it, who set up the call, and you can read that. You can have this induction is in there. So up, close eyes, down. When I get to the third time, I then say, now your arm can lift as you inhale, arm lifts up, close your eyes. That's right. Now leave your eyes closed. Your arm can just hang there as you exhale, you know, and turn your attention inward. And then I just kind of pace and lead. So the important things to me about an induction are that they signify now, you know, now we're doing this part of the session. And secondly, that they leave the person in a kind of a situation that is novel to them. And they're still looking to me for directions about how to proceed. So a novel situation is sitting with your arm in the air and your eyes closed, wondering what's going to happen next. But I then give them a few minutes, if you like, of pacing and leading, kind of letting them get used to the situation they're in. And what I mean by that is the weirdest thing for most people is that it feels quite normal. They're sitting there, they're listening to you, they're experiencing thoughts and an inner voice chattering away. And that can be disruptive unless you allow them to get used to that fact. So that's kind of what I mean by pacing and leading. But I don't really make any effort to relax people or put them in a trance or gauge how hypnotized they are, because I've moved away from the state-based definition of hypnosis. I think it's I think the reason it looks like that is because that's what we suggest. And actually, if we can free ourselves from that, and, again, this is more of what's sometimes called a cognitive behavioral view of hypnosis or a social psychological view of hypnosis. It doesn't mean that they're just faking or pretending. It means that hypnosis is better defined by our subjective experience about how we respond. Is that a doing? Are they lifting their arm? Or is it happening? Is their arm lifting? And that really is the key piece to me. It's even called the classic suggestion effect, is a subjective sense of non-volition or automaticity, or an easier way of saying is it's happening rather than something I'm doing. And that's what I'm interested in.
That they're really doing it subconsciously then, even though you're not focusing on getting them into the state, but by them working with them together, them giving you permission or being part of that, that exchange at the time.
Correct. It's a collaborative, non-volitional experience that we're going for. It's like games you played as a kid. Remember when we used to play this game at school, you'd spin around. Someone would say, look, just try this, spin around holding this stick, then throw it and try and jump over the stick. And you can't do it because it makes you dizzy. Or you'd put your arms in the door and press against the door, and then your arms would lift up. They'd feel weirdly light. Like the first time you do that, the thing that's weird about it is it's happening, right? So you overlook the fact that you collaborated by doing weird things with your muscles and sense of balance in the first place. Hypnosis to me is that. We collaborate, and the result of that is this novel experience that feels automatic. It feels like it's happening. And you go, wow, I've never felt so relaxed, or I was in a deep state. It's like, yes, because you collaboratively imagined around those ideas, and that is what happens when we do that. So it doesn't mean we can't suggest state changes. Let's face it, most people are coming in, their outcome is a state change, right? But I don't put this building block between the outcome and the discussion of we must get you in a trance state first. I just don't, there's no, there's no real evidence for it. You can achieve all of the hypnotic outcomes without doing that step. So it may be something you choose to do aesthetically, and because you want to meet their expectations. Sometimes that's what the client expects, but it's not essential. So I prefer an engaged, I keep using this word today, but an engaged collaborative frame where they recognize their role is active, even if they're completely relaxed. Their role is definitely an active role.
So it sounds like you've never grown up and you're still playing those playground games and people are collaborating with you. So you're having fun, and by having fun, you put a good message in there and put it to good use.
Yeah, because I absolutely. And I think this is something else I'm kind of centering around now, is that the experience, the novel experience is part of what enables this change to happen. And often that ends up missing if all we do is kind of suggest deeper and deeper levels of relaxation. For some people, yes, they're so relaxed that it's a novel experience and it's wow. But for others, it's not. It's like being there at the end of a yoga class and you're kind of thinking, you know, they're telling you this is the most advanced pose where you just lay on the ground and pretend to be a corpse. But most people are kind of thinking, well, I am relaxed. You know, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do with this? It can be similar if all we focus on is relaxation. And I think the fun element to it, it keeps this curiosity. They're engaged via the kind of curiosity, you know, the curious nature of this experience. And I think that's part of the space we play in, and that is partly what enables the change to happen.
Wow, that's a good answer. Thank you. And thanks for sharing that book with us too. I'm looking forward to reading more there.
Yeah, I will email it and then she can send it to everybody. It's basically a complete guide to how to do anytime, anywhere hypnosis. And what I find with therapists, again, you'll recognize most of the techniques. There's nothing radically new in there. But what I find for some therapists is it gives them an extra kind of bit of confidence to give a demonstration, or if they get the opportunity to give a lecture or a talk about it, that they can give a demo and, you know, stick someone's hand to the table or something. And then it's like, there it is. You know, it again, it opens up the audience to, well, if they can do that, maybe they can help me stop biting my nails. So it's a good thing to do.
Thank
but
you.
I will send that later on. Hello, we have a new question.
When you do the swan, do you have their eyes open so that they can look at the ideomotor signals, or do you do it with their eyes closed?
I normally start with the eyes open, and when it gets to the turn, it's almost easier for them. Sometimes I say, anytime it's easier, just close your eyes. So it's kind of an instruction anyway. But I want them to see the first movement, and I normally get them to verify that. Have you experienced the swan?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a particularly good swanning arm, left or right?
Yeah, just my right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll show you exactly how I do it. I don't know if this call's it looks like it is being recorded. And again, if anyone doesn't have it, Bob Burns, you can now get this as a download, right? So if you could just move slightly to your right so that I could see your arm. Right, and what I'd like you to do first of all is just put your hand up like this. And so what's your name? Kimberly, I'd like you to just say, I'm willing to have this experience.
I'm willing to have this experience.
Good. And I love it when people say that they're not quite sure what the experience is going to be. So I want you to give a second opportunity just to think about what you're saying now and say it one more time. I am willing to have this experience.
I'm willing to have this experience.
Brilliant. Okay. I want you to let your wrist relax now. So your hand's just kind of hanging there. Great. That's it. And I want you to turn and look at your hand now. So don't look at me on the screen. Look at your hand, almost like you've never looked at it before. Look at the lines on your hand. Look at the lines between the lines. And if your unconscious or subconscious or creative mind, whatever you prefer to call it, is willing to give you this experience, that hand will move. So that, good. And if that is a signal from this deeper part of you, I'd like it to increase that movement. That's it. Maybe the hand moving, fingers lifting. Good. Now, I wonder if your unconscious mind can do this. I'd like it to turn that hand towards your face. Almost like it's being pulled round by an invisible force. I know it's a strange feeling. Anytime it's easier, just close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, I'm going to ask that part of you to do something. Can you hypnotize Kimberly? If you can, pull that hand closer to her face. Good. Now, I'd like that part of you to begin pulling that hand up towards your face. As it does, you are going to enjoy a growing sense of well-being. That's right, higher and higher, a growing sense of well-being, an unusual sense of well-being. In fact, it's going to start to seem funny to you for some reason. It's going to put a smile on your face. That's right, the smile is going to grow. It's going to get closer and closer. The closer it gets, the better you will feel. As this smile grows, it may even turn into a grin. It may even turn into a laugh. Who knows? When it touches your face, that's right, you're going to laugh out loud for no good reason at all. And I get the feeling, Kimberly, there is something, if you could smile or laugh about it, you would be so much better off. If you could smile or laugh about it, you'd be so much better off. See it in its true perspective from 50 miles up or 1,000 miles up. Notice this will never, ever bother you again. You can let go of any negative thoughts, patterns, or limiting beliefs you had about that, and recognize you have all the resources you need. So I want you to go out into a little fantasy now and get a sense of yourself achieving the things you would like to achieve in these last few months of the year. Get a sense of yourself doing what it is you do, doing it wonderfully, effortlessly, everything falling into place, with a clear understanding of how you can use these idiomotor movements, use the swan to initiate change. You have all of the resources you need. These things I've said to you will come back to you in your own ideas, decisions you make, choices that you take. You're doing brilliantly. And when your unconscious is ready, you can hold on to all those good feelings, of course. Your arm will drift down and you'll drift up, ready to begin. There we go. Yeah. Back in the room. There we go. So that is how I normally do it. Don't have to go into fun and laughter, but sometimes I do. But I like the fascination aspect of this. And there's something about the first movement which kind of surprises people. You know, keep in mind, most people have never done this before. They have no idea that bits of them can move automatically. So for some people, it's that first movement. I normally go for a second and just say, I wonder if it could increase that movement. Because I know there's this part of them thinking, did I just move? You know, was that just me or boom. And then when they get a second movement, again, now it's like the connection is there. We can hang any value we like on the turn. So it could be going into a trance, going into hypnosis. Or it could be, does your mind know what to do about this? How it could change this? It can be any value at all. But once that is confirmed, again, you can even go into more familiar patterns of hypnosis. At that point, you could link the arm coming down to 10 times deeper relaxed, or whatever it is that you might happen to say. I prefer to leave their arm there while I do what I call this parts negotiation. I'm going to frame whatever their problem is, I'm going to frame it as a part of them that runs that behavior. And there's a number of steps to that. So I normally leave their arm there and get some more signals. And that's how it goes on. Okay? Thank you for doing that, being so brave.
I've got your audio book and I love it. Yeah, and your dad. So yeah, I'm great fans.
Oh, great. Yeah, my dad really did put everything into his audio. It's like our entire system of hypnotherapy is in there if you want to pick it out. So thank you.
Awesome.
Is there anybody else out there? Any other questions?
So Anthony, this is being recorded, so all our members, it goes on our webinar playlist. So everyone that can't make it, they watch it.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So the book gets sent out to a few more people then.
I've got a question.
Hello, Jenny.
Where's your hat?
Yeah, where's my hair? Even more.
No, your hat. No, your hat. It's not your hair. That would be rude.
Well,
I wouldn't ask you where your hair is. But where's your hat?
Yeah, well, I my hat normally it's like it's always on. If it's work, I have my hat on. But
we caught you out. We caught you out, didn't we?
You did. You literally caught me out. That's the way it is. And my hair, you know, I had to shave it with some clippers over lockdown. It turned out there just wasn't that much hair left, so I decided to abandon that and egg out with my dad. So there we go.
I really wasn't asking about your hair though. That would be rude. So.
Yeah, my hat it's kind of a pork. There's a market in London. I used to live in East London. I love that area of London, and there was a market there that was a kind of fruit and vegetable market for hundreds of years, but now it's just a regular kind of market called Spitalfields. And there's a little hat seller in there who sells, that's where I get my hat from. And he has a few different colors and one made of straw, but it's the same shape. It's not a trilby, it's actually a kind of pork pie hat, round on top with a feather on the side. Yeah.
It's nice that you can have different ones.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I'm in Brazil and I need a lighter issue, you know. All right, so you look like a hypnotherapist. You got some certificates behind you.
Oh yeah, they're Justine's. They're from Justine's training, I should say. I owe my hypnotherapy to meeting Justine. So
great.
Yeah,
Quite
exactly.
a lot of us on your academy.
Yeah, there's quite a few on the what we call cohort 3. That's the Sunday morning session here, 7 a.m. So for anyone else who is kind of interested, this is like the last opportunity to jump into this run of the training, because we're now we're coming into lesson 3 out of 12, so you could still catch up. But what I would encourage you all to do is go and check out our 14-day trial. It's like you get complete access to the platform, which has all of our video courses. It has our entire professional hypnotherapy system, the stuff we filmed in Canada with Mike Mandel. It's literally, you know, hours and hours and hours of good quality video courses. And you can also drop in on any of the lessons during that 14-day period. You can cancel any time. It won't cost you anything. But if you have time to binge in the next 2 weeks, then just go to Jacquin Hypnosis Academy, and the only way in actually is via the free trial. So
there's also
just go and do that.
Your smoking program's on there too.
The smoking program is on there as well, which was originally sold for like £375. And that really, we often, like in our professional hypnotherapy diploma, that's kind of the session we're building toward. That's the one we use as a vehicle to teach you everything, because it's kind of the most involved session. It's kind of easier to deal with a phobia than it is to run a good, thorough smoking session. So that is included. There's loads of stuff in there. It's like insane value. But the other thing that's really changed since doing all of this training online, and the thing that's really made a big difference to our courses, is at the beginning of each lesson, we hit the breakout room button and everyone is randomly assigned a hypno buddy and a hypno circle, like 4 to 6 people in that circle and one specific person. And they're given an exercise to do, but they're encouraged to practice the content from that lesson in the 2 weeks between each lessons. And I've got to say, it's completely transformed the entire experience. Like, we used to teach this stuff generally in 5 days, 40 hours, but like 5 intensive 8-hour days. Now we have 50 hours online, but it's spread over 6 months. And the learning experience is completely different. Because people are, you know, they're having to kind of get more confident on Zoom, dealing with strangers, practicing, you know, but doing that in a supportive environment. I'm adamant that this is a better experience now than it was in person. I thought it was pretty good in person, but that has really been the difference that's made the difference to our training.
Yeah. I found Zoom amazing for training, and the rooms are freaking awesome.
Yeah, the fact there's something about it. You know, at first when we had our online training platform without the Zoom-based courses, the thing that was missing was the practical element. So when it was like, okay, you can do breakout rooms, I just thought, okay, good. So people can practice. But what I overlooked was the kind of intimacy that breaking out into a call with just one other person or two other people gives. It's different from being in a classroom. There's distractions and noise, and you don't necessarily go, deep in the conversation outside of the techniques, but these breakout rooms change all of that. So yeah, it's been very good.
Awesome. All righty, Anthony, we'll let you keep on driving.
Yeah, I apologize so much for turning up late. It's so embarrassing.
That's okay.
But
we'd get like a bang on the window of a cop or a truck driver.
I'm just so glad that you got through. So thank you for persisting and you guys for hanging out. If anything, comes up after the call, you have any questions, just get in touch. When I get back home, so it's going to be in a few hours' time, I will email you a copy of my book. You can send it to anyone who registered for the call as a gift. And yeah, that's that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Jenny.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your generosity.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Safe driving.
Cheers, guys.
Anthony.
See you
Take
next time.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.